Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. Let's talk all things operations manual today. This is a hot topic since I'm pretty much begging you and suggesting that you get this darn thing done. So I want to walk you through step by step so we make this really simple and easy for you. I've done other ones on operations manuals, but I'm going to do it again because I want you to get this thing done. So first of this podcast is going to be for offices who don't have an operations manual done. Second half of this podcast will be for offices who already have an operations manual done. So if you want to skip forward to that way I'm hitting both sides of the coin of what you can be doing now. And then the third part of this podcast will be, as long as I don't forget, because I never pre-plan out my podcast. Thank you, Mark Costas, for teaching me all the glorious ways of doing these riff style. But the third part of this podcast, I will be talking about how to actually utilize and test your operations manual. And I actually just wrote that down, so hopefully I don't forget that. So if you do not have your operations manual done, let's start there. So the Dental Team right now, I have everything 50% off. So go snag the Dental Team operations manual. Make sure you get the Word documents. It is in Adobe. I think right now, not having to learn Adobe might help you out. You might love Adobe, so I'm not going to steer you away from it, but also make sure you snag the Word documents. In the file that we give you, it's in Digify, which is another company. It watermarks it with your company information on it. But what it's going to do is I do break that down into steps, but you're probably wanting to jumpstart it right now. And so that way you have a step-by-step guide of what to do. So usually we go through let's get your mission statement down, your core values, your vision. Yes, doctor, I still want you to do that. However, let's move ahead as well. So docs, while they're working on protocols, you could work on your vision, mission, core value. I do think Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, has a really good VTO model in there if you want something pretty simple to do. Don't make that fluffy. Core values, keep them less than 7. Make an acronym. We've talked about core values in the past. I do think the core values could help guide certain pieces of the ops manual. It's not essential right now. So step 1, all team members, they should be writing down their job flow of what they do starting early in the morning to the end of the day. Write down every single step they do. In our operations manual, I already have this pre-made for you. So every team member could just look to see, is this what they do? What are we missing? Add in, it's already pre-made for you. So that's a pretty easy start right there. The reason we want this done is because then this is going to help build our protocol that we're going to need to actually write. So first step is just to write down what you do. We're not going to go into depth, just write down what you do on the daily, then go to the weekly, then the monthly, then the quarterly, and then the annual for every position in the practice. So you guys could even do this over Zoom. Every person could type it up on Google Docs. You could utilize our ops manual that we already have. It's already done for you, but that's a really easy way. Everybody working on Google Drive, we just make one for TC, scheduler, biller, office manager, hygienist, dental assistant. Okay. So everybody could do that. If you've got a bunch of dental assistants, get them all together. What is the actual flow that they would want to maximize for each person? That way, when there's a core process for all dental assistants and a core process for all hygienists. So that's step number 1. After you guys have that all done, let's go to step number 2, where now we go through and as a team, let's have everybody's job descriptions up. Let's start pulling out all the protocols we'd need to make. And I'm saying get down and dirty on this. How do we log in? That sounds so stupid, but people don't know how to do it. How do we clock in? How do we make an appointment? How do we treatment plan? How do we print a treatment plan? How do we chart? How do we do perio probing? How do we set up for all these different procedures? How do we do billing with screenshots? How do we bill? How do we do our sending out for our claims at the end of the day? How do we add an attachment? How do we add a narrative? How do we add a perio chart? How do you do your AR? How do you even run that report? What report should you be running every day, every week, every month? And how do we go to that in our software? So that's where I'm talking get down and dirty. And the easiest way to do this, we have a whole list of all of these in the ops manual. The other way is once everybody has their job description or their flow of their job, you then go through each one of those tasks and you write down every single protocol that would be needed to be able to do each of those tasks on the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually for each position. So that's how you're going to do this. Doctors, you can write this up for associate doctors. Don't forget about your associate doctors. Okay. So then once you have that whole giant list, I would suggest making that list for front office, back office, and all office. There will be some things for every person in the office, like how to log in, how to do your time card, your end of days. All those things are pretty much the same. So you can have an all office one. Then what we're going to do is we're going to look at that whole list and think of other things. Once you're building a lot of these protocols, you'll start to realize the ones that you need to add in, and you'll be like, oh, we forgot this or we forgot that. Or when you're doing your daily work, you'll remember like, oh, I didn't make this one. So just for now, done is better than perfect, and we're not going crazy town on it. So now you're going to have a whole giant list of a bajillion protocols. It'll be great. Look at that list and see if you can combine any. Is everything under AR? Could we make an AR one and then have sub bullet points under it of what we'd want to have on there? The answer is yes, and that's probably how you should do it. Then what I did is I set everything in alphabetical order because I thought, okay, people aren't going to think the way I think. People aren't going to think the way you think. So I put that protocol list actually in alphabetical order. And I had a back office, a front office, and an office manager one. I didn't do a whole office. You guys can do that on your own. That's how I split up the operations manual online if you want to purchase that one. So after you do that, then it's divide and conquer amongst each team member. I suggest getting this in a Google Doc. Google Drive is great for this, and Google Sheets is really, really fantastic. You can put check marks on it. You can assign it. I'm foreseeing the whole master list. You could color code it, chunk, like these are Kiera's, these are Kaylee's, these are Tiffany's, or you could add tabs at the bottom with every person's name of their protocols they need to get done with due dates, check marks that they would then check off as they get these protocols accomplished. It's going to be really simple. You could have the whole master one, then divide it up amongst each person. You could chunk it and say, these are the ones that need to be done by this date. So that way there's a date accountability. Now, before you release the masses, make sure you have a template of how you want these to come back. So on the Dental Team Operations Manual, what I did is I actually put, like what is the purpose of doing this for SRPs, things like that. Then what is going to be all the supplies needed if it's back office. Front office, there are some supplies that you'll need. And then what are the steps to doing it? And then also a spot for a picture and or video. So that's how we set it up. There were a lot of things like a tray setup, having a video for breaking down a room and setting up a room, those types of things. For front office, you've got a lot of screenshots you'll be making with arrows, and you're going to get really good at that because that's going to make it so somebody could literally walk by step by step by step. Kaylee Taylor in our company is the best at making protocols. She literally has it to where we can go and read hers and we can accomplish everything she wants us to do. Sometimes she makes videos, but usually she'll have screenshots, and it's very efficient. And a lot of times she'll even do both for the person who likes to watch the video, for the person who likes to read. We're all different learners, which is why it's beneficial to do a video and written steps. Okay, so that's like boom shakalaka. If you are an office that does not have an ops manual, I just gave you the step by step by step. That was 3 steps to do in order to get this operations manual done. Keep on top of each other. You've got the outline of how you want these protocols done. Have them type it up. Be specific. We want this in Times New Roman, 12-point font, 1-inch margins. Like that sounds so silly. It will make editing and compiling it so much faster if you do those little details at the beginning. I would not suggest everybody does a bajillion protocols on day 1. I would suggest that maybe each person takes on 5 protocols or 3 protocols, and we get that done for the next day. Then we look over them. And this is where you're going to share ideas and see, does this make sense? And does it make sense to somebody who's never been in this or not? So this is really going to help you out to be able to see, okay, Kiera had really minimal details. Kaylee had a lot of details. Everyone, we want it to be more like Kaylee's. Okay, great. Now we have the standard, and then we'll do 5 more, bring them back. Or the people who didn't have quite as many details or screenshots, give them specific instructions. Don't be vague on this. These protocols will not be effective if they're not specific. So make sure they're specific. The goal is just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I remember, I'm going to take you guys back to my 5th grade learning. I remember being in 5th grade. I was sitting in class. I think my teacher's name was Mr. Weber. I think he actually shot himself in the leg one time. I remember he was limping and I was like, what's wrong? You know, like any 5th grader would say. And he's like, I shot myself in my leg. And I was like, who does that? And how did that? So instantly I lost credibility for him, but I'm pretty sure that was his name. I remember what he had us do is he had us do a peanut butter and jelly demonstration. And for offices that have worked with us, you've seen, and this is literally where I pulled this idea, was for my 5th grade science teacher. And Mr. Weber, I think is his name. It stands for Superstars. That was our name. Cool little elementary mascot. We were superstars, not cool like Wolverine or Wolf or Fox or Tiger. We were superstars, guys. Like, go superstars. And I could probably even sing our little song if you guys ever want. Maybe I'll make you guys a video on that. But back on track, I remember what he did in our class was he had us tell him how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I remember vividly seeing him put peanut butter up his arm. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because we said, put the peanut butter on. So he literally, I remember him just taking a huge scoop of peanut butter and lathering it on his arm. And I was like, who is this guy? So then what he did was he said, okay, guys, I want you to go home and I want you to ask your parents to write step-by-step instructions of how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and then bring those back and we're actually going to use that and see if we can make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Well, my mom does not like to fail. Truly. I know this is where I got my crazy personality from. She gets so angry if her grade is a 99%. She wants the 100%. So when the semester's over, she's like, I was so bummed. I got an A+, but it was only a 99, not 100%. And I'm like, good night, Mom. She's in her master's program right now. And she's like cringing over that 1%. So that's who my mom is. And she is awesome. And I'm appreciative of how she pushed me to become a really thorough student. With that said, though, when I told her that Mr. Weber made fun of certain parents who couldn't do really good steps, my mom was like, oh no, he is not going to be making fun of me. I'm not kidding. My mom wrote out, I think it was 2 or 3 pages of how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with such precise instructions of turn left a half a turn, take 3 steps to the cupboard with your right hand, lift up to the cupboard in the middle, not the one on the right, not the one on the left, the one in the middle, use your 4 fingers, pull the door open. Like that was how in-depth her steps were. And it was funny because we all took our homework assignments back in of our parents' steps. And I remember some kids, like he pulled out one and those parents were like, get out 2 pieces of bread, put some peanut butter on, put some jelly on, eat it. And I remember him taking like 2 pieces of bread, putting it down, stacking the peanut butter on it, stacking the jelly on it, and trying to eat it. And we were all giggling like, whose parents would say that? Like, they're so funny. And then I remember he pulled out my mom's and I remember he stopped because it was like 3 pages, like stapled together. She wrote it out in pencil. And I remember he looked at this and he just stopped and he's like, guys, whoever's mom wrote this wins the award for the best steps I've ever seen ever. And I know I'd make a perfect peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like the amount of thoroughness my mom had was probably excessive, but she did not want me to be made fun of, nor herself. And I appreciate my mom for caring about me that much. I mean, being made fun of as a 5th grader is a traumatic experience. So back to protocols, I said that and I derailed on purpose because that's how your protocol should be. You should be able to make a perfect peanut butter and jelly sandwich, aka implant, root canal, billing AR, answering the phone the exact same way by multiple different people without them having to come and ask you for clarification. If they have to come ask you for clarification, you know that it needs to be done differently because it wasn't clear enough to every person. It might be clear to you, but it's not clear to every person. So that's really going to help dial this down. So what you guys can do on the first day after you get 5 protocols in, round robin them. And people who have not done these procedures or these protocols, give it to someone. So front and back and front, swap protocols. So the dental assistants give it to the front office, give your billing to the back office. And then, because you guys can still go into offices, see if your team could actually recreate that protocol and if they would get the result that they're looking for. If not, change the steps right then. This is how you're going to really make sure you get better detail, clear, and be kind to one another, but just say like, I got lost right here. If you could add in this, it would be more clear. How would it be if you had somebody who could literally look beyond your circumstances right now, that could give you strategy, that could see where you needed to go and direct and guide you? That is literally the definition of a coach. And right now, I firmly believe that we are a nation that needs coaching, that needs direction, that needs strategy. So at the Dental Aid team, we put together strategy coaching calls for you. So go snag them. Please, please, please don't get behind right now. Don't fall off the bandwagon. Don't live in fear. Let a coach help guide you. You guys, this is what we do on the daily. So please, I dropped these prices to the lowest so that way you guys could maximize us. Use us, text us, call us, email us. That way you have a coach in your pocket for strategy. In addition to that, 50% off of all Dental Aid team products. Every single one of them is 50% off so you can utilize that distance learning and the extra time that you've been gifted. Last but not least, join us for our webinars every Tuesday and Thursday, where we're getting an amazing lineup of speakers to give you tactical tips right now that you can use. You guys, now's the time. What are you going to do with it? Jump on over to www.thedentalaidteam.com/strategy and snag your strategy right now. This is really going to help everybody rise to a higher level. We'll have better protocols that are actually usable. Now, this is software specific. So if you're about to convert or you know you'll be converting within the next 6 months, leave off anything that's software specific because it's just going to be a waste of time. You could still make them. I don't want to say it's a total waste of time. You could still make them. Just note you're going to have to update to the steps. And I would flag all the ones that are software specific because the bulk of all the content's already written. You'll just need to change the steps. So have written and pictures and also video if you so desire. It's up to you guys. So that's in a nutshell. If you have not done an operations manual, there you go. I have just jump-started you. Now, let me switch over to point number 2 of this podcast. And that's going to be for all the offices who already have an operations manual who now need to go to 2.0. Get videos. Get patient education videos. You can also round robin, like I just mentioned, for the people who do not have an operations manual. And what you can do is you can actually pull out those protocols, round robin them, give them front to back, back to front, swap them around and make sure the protocols are still current. Also review everything. Check to make sure every single procedure you're doing in there right now works. Also simplify it and make it into guidebooks. Guidebooks are the next step. And this is where you also take your onboarding. So what you'll do with guidebooks is you're going to create your office core value. You're going to have on there like about your office. You're going to have what every new hire needs to get at the beginning for every single position. So associates, office managers, regionals, treatment coordinators, billers, every position. So every one of them needs to have, before you even start, here's your checklist. And I would do check boxes. Now that you're here, this is what you're going to accomplish in your first 30 days. For assistants, have a training guide of where they'll be checking off if they're in EDA or expanded functions that they actually check off. X amount of fillings, X amount of temporaries, X amount of root canals, implants, all the different procedures, and have a little graph or a chart that they actually have to check off and have it signed off by the doctor. Same thing for associates. Have about 10 procedures of certain kinds. They have to show you 10 crowns, 10 fillings, 10 exams, all those things. And you actually have the date they have to initial off. You have to initial off. So start to build these guidebooks in your 30, 60, 90. I'm happy to share our protocols. Link all those 30, 60, 90 to videos and have a way where the person who's learning, who's training, being hired, I'm the new person on the block. I sign off that I think that I am ready to go on these and that I've studied this and I know it. Then a coach, somebody in the office, is also going to confirm that they do it and they'll sign off on another box. And then we have their proficiency level on a scale of 1 to 10, how proficient you feel they are, and if they need to redo one of those areas to pass it off. This will go in their employee file so you can say, I know we trained you on this date. So everything of that. And then also if it's a video, check off that they watched the video and maybe even have them do a little write-up of what they learned on the video and what they're going to apply personally. So make this guidebook pretty much there. Hey, welcome to our practice. Here's the guidebook for dental assistants. Here's the guidebook for associates. Here's the guidebook for our office manager. Here's the guidebook for our scheduler. Here's the guidebook for our treatment coordinator. And this is what you're going to do in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. This is who you're going to meet with. Maybe have an org chart of your entire practice. This is who you'll be meeting with. This is what you need to do. And these guidebooks need to be up to date. So say, hey, this is where the operations manual is. This is when we do OSHA training. This is when you get paid. Here's your W-2. All the things. Do you see how beautiful these smaller guidebooks will be? You've got to get your whole ops manual done so you can refer back to it. And now you've just made it simpler. You might even pull out a few things of like, here's how you to clock in. And it's just right there in their guidebook. Imagine this as a little spiral bound notebook that you would then give them on their first day of hiring that walks them through every single place. Also leave a page for notes so they can use notes. I did not come up with this brilliant idea. This came from an office that I am obsessed with. They're up in New York and I coach them, and I love coaching them because they give me such great ideas and we share great ideas back and forth between myself and them. I think these guidebooks are brilliant. I was taking them down and making them smaller and having a 30, 60, 90, but I did not add in those clinical pieces for clinical. For an office, you can do the exact same thing. Show me that you actually know how to enter an EOB. You're going to be entering 5 EOBs. You're going to be submitting 10 claims. You're going to be entering 10 checks. Confession. I did not know how to enter insurance on a patient. I'd seen it done so many times, but me physically, like I knew the general gist of it. I did not know how to do that. So had I come in and said like, I know how to do all these things, this actually checks to make sure they know how to do it, not to check that they're lying, just to make sure that they're up to par. And it's okay. And tell the people like, if this is some of the stuff like, you know, the general gist of, we're just going to have you do it. And honestly, if you don't know how to do it, ask us and we'll teach you. No problem. We just want to make sure you're totally proficient. Have them sign off on this. So it's literally like sign-offs, 30, 60, 90 days to ensure everyone's up to par. So I really, really, really want you guys to dive into this. This is going to be so valuable for you. So that is Operations Manual 2.0. So get those guidebooks out. Everybody's already done the first round of it. Now tell them, okay, guys, we've got all this work done. Now we're going to make this into guidebooks so everybody can start writing out guidebooks. What would you actually want to train these people on? How are we going to pass it off? How are we going to sign off? And then have everybody like make their first draft of it, come together at a team meeting via Zoom. We're all going to compare our notes of what we did, or we're going to talk about it on Zoom and start making it. Someone can be typing on Google Docs that everybody has access to so everyone can see each other on Zoom. This is usually what I do. My whole team's on Zoom, and then we pop over on a Google Doc that we're all looking at the Google Doc at the same time we're doing Zoom. So on my computer, or if you have 2 computers and you're cool like that, mine, I just share on one screen. You could have 2 split screens. So you see your Zoom people, and you're also typing on the Google Doc. I don't usually screen share with the Google Doc because it makes our faces smaller and I can't see people's faces. So that's why I just share the screen with both of those. So that would be 2.0 version. All right. Now, last part, I did not forget. Third part of this podcast is going to be how to utilize this with the entire team. And I mentioned it before, it was a little brief, is now we're going to round robin these. So even with the guidebooks, share, pass it to somebody who has no idea about your position and ask them for feedback, honest feedback, and be okay. This is where you want to know what doesn't make sense, because if they can tell you and they can make it easier for you and you guys share ideas, then we're going to make it easier for the next person to come in. Also, think about, could you use Trainwell or Fiverr or other online training platforms where we actually have tests? So you could test their knowledge on these things to make sure and have them tell them it's a 2-week process. I used to have so much fluff in my consulting course that it wasn't really accurate. So Tiffany and I we wrote all of it, we made it all fluffy, and then we were like, where can we simplify and cut down? We cut and we cut and we cut until it was the bones of what really needed to happen that would move the ball forward. Have KPIs in there. If you don't have KPIs or how to get to KPIs or what the KPI is or how to even like do the math to figure out the answer, that's part of 2.0 version. These are the things that you do, and this is how you work with your whole team. And then I would also say twice a year, you do CE for the whole team, aka everybody has to go through recertification for the top systems, namely handoffs, presenting treatment plans, doing our handoff from doctor to hygienist, hygienist to doctor, front office handoff. We're also going to do training on insurance verification. We're going to do training on, I already said it, how to present a treatment plan. We're going to talk about how we discuss finances. We're going to make sure everybody knows how to make a payment. Everybody knows how to enter a check. All these things. You could even have videos that you make as an office, and then on Trainwell, twice a year it pops up, and the person has to submit a video of how they present a treatment plan to that, and then you give them a rating. So that way it's in there, and this is done twice a year. These are the things that fall off, you guys. I can't tell you. NDTR, I teach that so often, and within like 6 months to a year, depending upon the office, half the time that falls off and it looks like they've never learned it. How do we answer the phone? What do we do with upset patients? What about cancellation verbiage? How do we not get cancellations? How do we see a patient? What's a new patient from start to finish? Could a person do it in a video as if they had a patient? It should be so ingrained in their souls that they know how to do this, and you have videos, and then you have them do a video of themselves doing it with a partner, and they have to upload it. And this is reminded twice a year. Doctors, hygienists, people with licenses have to get re-credentialed every single year, or not re-credentialed. You have to do your CE. You have to do credentialing too, but that's not what I'm referring to. This is CE. So you have to continue learning. And so let's do the same thing in our practices. Get those top 10 to 25 systems, create a video of the perfect way to do it, or use Dental Team's video bank. I'm totally fine if you use that. Rip us off. We've already done it. You might as well. So utilize those and then have your team. So there's the perfect video. Not that my videos are perfect. I'm just saying, like, you have your perfect example of how you want it done in your practice. And then your team member has to upload that as well, of their version of it. Because a lot of times when we hear ourselves in video form of what we think it is, we then can see the difference between it, because we can watch the perfect version of what we want it to be and our version and see the differences that way. And then I'd ask that team member when they're going through this reprocessing every 6 months of, what did you learn? What things are you going to change? What area are you going to work on? So it's a constant improving. So guys, that was a lot for you, but I literally took you from step 1 to step 3 of getting this done at the basics, then going to Guidebooks 2.0 with videos, and then to how to utilize the entire team. So guys, dive into this. And I purposely went to a deep dive on ops manuals so you and your teams right now can work on this while you guys have extra time. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me on the Dental Team, and I'll catch you next time.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.